How's everybody doing? A little bit of check-in. Ready for your afternoon nap? I know how y'all see the folks all roll. I've heard that y'all take back. Anyways, I am here to introduce Alan Phillips, the Director of Purchasing at Allen Community College, as our general session number 2. Before I do the full intro, we are now printing out the little code sheet, so this session is 2 capital G 2025. It's posted on the back door over there. You have 9 minutes to check in. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Alan. Alan is the Director of Purchasing at Allen Community College with a career spanning multiple colleges, universities, and municipalities across Texas. Specializes in procurement and organizational improvement with a proven record of process enhancement in public agencies. A former lecturer at the University of Houston. Alan holds a degree in industrial management and minor in procurement. His professional leadership includes past roles with TXPPA, SCTAPP, and NAEP. And he currently serves as treasurer of the East Texas Center for Independent Living. Alan and his wife, Jerry, live in Minnesota and enjoy spending time with their family, especially their beloved grandson. Please welcome Alan.
Thank you. I do have a distinct feeling I probably should have gone potty before we started all of this. I do have several slides. I was just telling, by the way, somebody said, man, you're a big shot. They gave you a general session. I am such a big shot, my friends, that I have my own videographer in the back. And I have my own timekeeper in the front. Now, why do I need a timekeeper? I have 58 minutes and 49 slides. I'm either going to talk real fast or you're going to read real slow. Either way, it's all going to work out. But I am really happy to be here at TACPO. Thanks to Cindy White, our, what are you now? The special assistant to the gods, or whatever you are. Cindy White and Allison and Stacy, especially Stacy in the back. Thank you and the board for allowing me to be here. So I do have, how many people here are English people? Grammar people. Apparently my slide is wrong. It should be who-digitally behind, not who-digitally behind. And we'll get through that today. Is that okay? So I'm going to introduce my friend Tony. Every single one of you, I don't care if you're in purchasing, payables, payroll, financial, I don't care. You have a Tony in your office. Can I tell you about my friend Tony? I met Tony in the early 80s when I was working for the University of Texas Health Science Center, and he was working for UT Anderson. Purchasing department for us was on the 6th floor, Anderson was on the 7th floor. We would go smoke together. I've known Tony 40 years. Several years ago, he was working for me at the University of Houston, and I was in Nashville. I used to teach for NAEP. I was in Nashville teaching some classes, and my phone naturally was laying on the table. And I'm doing my thing. And this was at 8:30 in the morning, and I was doing a class, I was ready for this, on procurement law. What are the elements of a contract? What does the four corners mean? What is the difference between an invitation to bid and a request for a proposal? What does a purchase order get you? Crap. Right? My phone kept vibrating. Now I can see from a distance 713, 743. I couldn't see the rest of it. Took a break, went outside, called the number back. It's Tony. Now mind you, this is in April. Every single one of you know what's coming in May. What comes in May? Graduation and commencement, right? We were at one of the largest universities in the world. And he calls me on the phone and he is panicked And he says, Alan, we have a problem. First of all, I'm in Nashville. I don't have a problem. I got barbecue and alcohol. And he said, well, the president's office called late Friday evening. Remember, this is Monday. And the president has decided that he wants a VIP tent next to what was then Hawthorne's Pavilion. It's where the basketball team is. That's where they do commencement. And it's for VIPs only. And he wants food. He wants the tables, you know, the high tops and those kinds of things. And he wants alcohol. And he even whispered alcohol. You are on a major university campus, you don't think they have alcohol before? So we talked through the process. How many people had worked at a major university? And I'm not saying that your community college is not. If you worked at a UT or, God forbid, an A&M or something. Did I say that loud enough there? You probably have the answers to a few of these questions. What did I already know? I already knew that we had a food service provider in the name of Aramark. What does Aramark have? Food. Well, I didn't say it was good, I said I had it. Second thing I knew about Aramark was at the time, and maybe still is, they are the proprietary contract holder for the Houston Astros, the Texans, and the Rockets. What else do I know about Aramark just by that? Had a liquor license. When was the last time you tried to get a liquor license to serve alcohol on your campus? It is not a fun deal. In fact, I don't even know if you can do it. So what's the third tenet going on? The president's office, God bless Dr. Smith, wanted a tent. Now you're thinking to yourself, that's not a big deal. Except think about it this way. Less than 4 miles from our campus was Rice University, graduation the same weekend. Across the street from the University of Houston is Texas Southern University. Guess what? Graduation the same week. 3 miles from our campus was the world-renowned Texas Medical Center with UT Health Science Center, UT MD Anderson, Baylor Medical School, Texas Women's University, several. Guess what? Weekend. Same weekend. It's always what weekend, by the way? Mother's Day. It goes over really well. So what do you think? Yeah. So what I wouldn't be in student services that week. So what do you think I told Tony? Call the tent company. Get a tent. He said, well, what about all the tape? Call them. He said, well, I know it's going to be over a certain amount of money. I'm going to have to get bids. Call them today. Every purchasing person in this room. Where's my friend Rick? My friend Rick, Cindy, all of us will tell you the same thing. Get it done. We'll figure it out. That night at dinner, I'm sitting with my mentor, who's now gone, and several people, and we're talking about this transaction, or this interaction. And Mr. Yeoman looked at me and he said, so, who is your that can't answer a call from the president's office to get it? He used a couple of words I can't use them because Laura's in the room. A tent. So, I start thinking, so who did we leave behind, or who's minding the store while you're here? While you're here. This morning, before our speaker, most half of this room, I looked, had their laptop open. We'll talk about that. So, I'm going to tell you that this presentation is primarily set up for the procurement side of the house. But any of you, Ms. Nelson, can use this presentation for your AP staff, your payroll staff, your budgeting staff, any staff you have. And it doesn't have to be in finance. But what we're looking for today is this holistic buyer, right? The one who gets their head off their desk and says, wow, maybe I just need to call the tent company. Right? So, over the next months, I started to look at our current profession in procurement. Study the same with y'all too, on the finance side. And here's what I found. One of the things that I find difficult in Texas, not so much now that I'm in a community college, but when I was in the state agency, we were required that our procurement people had to be certified by the state of Texas to spend state money. I will tell you, at the University of Houston at the time, my office was the first office of any state agency anywhere in Texas that everybody on the staff was certified. But that's one of the things we do is we teach to the test. We don't ask people to look around, right? What's the other one? Sometimes our certification is often valued over our human skills. I have people in my office that don't have certification of any kind. But they are wonderful procurement people. Because they ask the questions and they challenge people on our campus. And you'd say, oh God, we can't challenge so-and-so. Oh, Judy, we can't challenge Judy in there because she's been here for 40 years. But retirement is an option. One of the things that also comes up is this interpersonality of technology. Our communication is driven by technology. We send emails, we don't even phone call. We just had a conversation at lunch today about people on my staff, God forbid, who don't answer the phone. They'll listen to the voicemail, and if they want to reply, they don't even call back, they send an email. Anybody all have any of those people? It's all in person. I'd rather pick up the phone and call Cindy White and say, Cindy, I need this. And she says, I'll send it to you right away. Or, you can't have it. She never told me that. Rather than just send her an email. I ask this question all the time. Do you make a decision at your desk that affects your campus? I used to work for a guy, and if you told him no, you got to go home the rest of the day to think about it. We make decisions all the time. We all have those favorite people. Oh, well, you know, if Susie calls, I'll let her have anything, because, you know, she's very sweet to us and brings us cookies and stuff, and so I'll help her through the process. But if Claire calls, oh no, Claire's always been real mean to me, and she's always rude, and so I'm going to drag her process out. Now, I say all this with a little bit of tongue in cheek. Some of my travel is 30 or 40 days old. So I have to figure out what my business office staff think of me. Well, they will find out. But do you make an impact on the college? Everything that we do makes an impact, particularly those of us in the business offices. We make an impact. Oh, well, you know, we'll just delay payment to that vendor for this month. Really? I think there's a government code that says you better not do that. Right? Have we done it before? Man. I had an AP person at UT get walked out of the building by police because of that. She kept having her least favorite vendors, and so she would delay their payment. It was really hard to catch up with her, but they got her. Form over substance. One of the things that we used to do, Rick's not old enough, the city might be, is we used to do PO reports. How many POs were done in your office last month? I don't care. It's quality over quantity. I don't care how many POs I did. What I care more about is the quality. Do you know your campus, your city, your county, and your vendors? Is this important? Sure. Here's what I know about Alvin Community College. Everybody know where Alvin Community College is? What is Alvin famous for? Nolan Ryan. And Alan Phillips. Right? Write that down. There'll be a test at the end. But here's what I know, and I've shared this with our CFO before. We are but a dot, maybe even less than a dot, between the city of Houston and Galveston and Freeport and the big facilities down there. So guess what happened when COVID came? We were the low people on the totem pole. What difference did it make when COVID came with us? Does anyone want to guess? My staff will tell you. It was me. Not because I'm any better than anybody else, but I knew all the vendors. Right? So I knew the MSC people, and I knew the Fastenal people. And I pick up the phone and say, man, can you just drop me off a box of masks? Anything will do. Know your vendors. They don't care. Our president at the time didn't care how much money we were spending. Our board did, by the way. There's a world famous story about me and dealing with the board. So COVID happened in March of 2020. We had a board meeting in June, all on Teams, and when the board member was asked, Alan, so how much money have we spent just on PPE, COVID stuff? Of course, I had a report. And his question, which was, I don't know where he got it, well, how much do you anticipate spending going forward? Anybody got an answer? I told him it was a WAG. That didn't go over well. The reason it was a WAG is because why? Because we had no clue how much money we were going to spend. We didn't know if we could ever open the college back up. We didn't know if the students were going to come back. We had to buy 87 laptops for, what do they call underfunded students? What do they call it? They don't have enough money. We have this scholarship. And we had to provide laptops and the airdrops, or whatever you call it, for them in the middle of COVID. It was not a fun picture. Well, I knew a vendor in Dallas. And I picked up the phone. And I said, can you get me 87 laptops? We call our people at AT&T. Can we get these, what do they call them out there? Hotspots, yeah. And we got them. It's because we know it's not working. Right? So, one of the most dramatic shifts that we've seen, probably in our side of the house, is this notion of product competency to tool competency, right? When I was a very young buyer and purchasing at the University of Texas, we started all our buyers as office supply buyers. Why? You can barely screw up a notepad. And back at the time, some of you may be old enough to remember, a lot of the office supplies we had to buy from TDC. The nameplates on the desk, that's why all the nameplates in old state agencies all look alike, that's where we got them. We bought our furniture from TDC, so you couldn't hardly screw it up. But you learned a few things about the vendors, you learned a few things about the products, you found out what worked best for you. Then we shifted and said, oh, by the way, we don't really care what you know. We want to see if you can do a purchase order in our new ERP system. And so now we have people in our organizations who have no idea what they're doing with regard to what they're buying. But they can get a purchase order. So then you say, okay, but now we have to buy all of these centrifuges for our new lab. I need you to help me do a bid. So can you help me find the specifications? My favorite requisition, all my purchasing people, my favorite requisition was from the police department at another university, I won't mention any names, TSU. 1 each white truck. That was it. 1 each white truck, $23,430. Fortunately, I was able to work my way back through their organization and figure out what they needed, blah, blah, blah. We have buyers today that would say, oh, 1 each white truck, here's a quote from Tom Carter Ford. They put a purchase order in there. It happens. Sometimes we have tunnel vision with regard to our goal. One of the things we did at UT was that we had departmental liaisons. I spent 2 weeks in the Department of Pathology at the UT Medical School in their business office. I spent 2 weeks in shipping and receiving. I have a great appreciation for how the departments do their work. Because what we don't see on the finance side of the house is some academic or some dean or some professor standing up there yelling at an administrative person saying, I want this stuff right away. How do I get that requisition? Can you make it move faster? Don't you know anybody? Can you help me? And I saw that happen in pathology. Shipping and receiving is I have purchasing people who put on the delivery address 6110 Bannon Street, UT Medical School. You know where it's going? 1 million square foot building. It happened. Also see that we have very little mentoring. I will tell you this. So about 6 or 7 months ago, Alvin Community College lost, about a year ago, we lost our CFO. And we got a new CFO. The mentoring that person has done with me, without question, absolutely top level. But we don't have that. And I'm hoping that her mentoring me and the other directors on her staff will filter down in our organization, and other areas of our college will see it. What a great leader. Caveat emptor, who knows that is? Buyer beware. Buyer beware of what? Buyer beware of what? Who's the buyer? Now, oh, never mind. Now we're going to go to a P law class. I'm going to do it. Who's the buyer? My name is on every single purchase order that goes out of that college. My initials are on every contract. Am I a buyer? What's the impact? Very little peer review. I do a lot of peer reviews. If I could take my physical plant director, I'd love to review him something. No, I'm sorry. Sometimes performance evaluations are based on attendance and appearance. You can't wear black every day. I'm sorry. I don't care if you come in flip-flops. Just show up and get it done. Right? Get it out the door. Now, I will say that with the addition of our new CFO, we've had lots of NBO. Here's our objective. We're going to get there when? Tomorrow's Wednesday. We don't work on Wednesdays. Outcomes don't seem to matter. We just always keep talking about outputs. Right? That often happens. I'm sorry I have to go so fast, but there's a lot. Character is rarely ever discussed. I will say with my new boss, character is always discussed. It should be my character. So in case you've never said it's a wag to your board, you will expect a phone call from your president. Or I didn't expect, when I do now, I do it. So that's character. Office politics. Those are one of the things that I see most often. 25% of the time, office politics take up a lot of your day. Oh, you know, Barbara, you heard? That's what I thought. I heard too. And then we start talking about her, and the next thing you know, we're sitting at Subway talking about what we heard. Oh yeah, I love gossip. So the question is our, and not even for the board person people, the point click, is that adding any value? So I'm going to tell you a real quick story. By the way, my friend Tony is part of the story. So we had PeopleSoft when I was at U of H. And we got a system upgrade. And in that system upgrade, we had to assign by college, right? College of Humanities, College of Music, College of Athletics, whatever. Or academic or non-academic departments, President's Office, CFO. We could no longer assign by commodity code. So I'm driving home one night crying, thinking, okay, how are we going to do this in our new system? And we determined, or I did, that we would break up the university by colleges and buyers in relative to their experience and their, don't remember the word here, disposition. So I put my nicest, sweetest, kindest person as responsible for the president's office. You don't want to put the mean one. Okay? I also had a lady that worked for me, Sally, who, for all intents and purposes, had already told us that she was retiring. She wanted about 12 more months in TRS. And I thought, what am I going to do with Sally? Well, at the time, the university had set up a contract with Dell to buy our computers through a hub provider out of Irving. And so what would happen is that the department would go online, create the quote. Leslie Scroot at High Ed would price the quote based off the Dell quote, okay, or off the Dell pricing, and we would issue the purchase order to them. They would ship to Dell. Okay, that's how we got our hub credit. Well, I thought, Sally could do this. It's not rocket science, but it'll give you 12 months. So we rearranged our organization, we thought through the processes, we tried to find stumbling blocks, and we said, okay, Sally can do it. About 3 months in, Tony comes to my office one day. Remember, Tony's kind of country, and he said, oh, I kind of resent the fact that I got to do all this work. And Sally's just over there just pointing and clicking. All she got to do is get a quote and go verify the quote and place the order. She don't have to do anything. Is there any value to that? Give the guy this morning, is there any value to that? Yeah, you know what the value is? I don't have to do it. Do you know how many Dell orders go through the University of Houston at that time? Every day. Somehow we were able to manipulate the system so that we could put a 205 code in there. Remember what 205 is, or 200, whatever it is. It's 200, 205, 210, whatever the NIGP code is for technology. And everything that came in with that 205 code went to Sally. Tony didn't have to do it, but he don't whine about it. Is point and click purchasing adding any value? Absolute. We all have them now. We just hired a new procurement assistant in January. She's doing all purchases less than $10,000 that only require one quote. Is she adding any value? Sure, I don't have to do them. Sonia doesn't have to do them. They just get done. We don't even look at them. She adds a lot of value. So we can focus on what? Other things. Like, spend limits, vacation. So, what are the 20, or it's going to be less, because I took some out, attributes of this holistic buyer? What are we looking for? Did I do something? Hello? Care. One of the things I say is I just do what you say. Answer the phone. Help people. What are we in business for? Every single one of us. What's our output? Students. We don't have a job unless we have students in and students out. The guy talked about it this morning, about helping those students through the processes. Because remember, a lot of them are 18 and 19 years old. Ain't very smart. Ain't very smart. They can navigate these apps, but they ain't very smart. Be loyal when absent. That's really kind of hard to do. Well, I'll very place to work, but sometimes. Be loyal, just, Be an empathetic listener. Now, I didn't say not judge. Because we often do, don't we? But be an empathetic listener. Because you don't know what people are going through. You absolutely don't know. I mean, we have a phone call with our CFO every Thursday morning. She is just coming out of a meeting probably with the president. Because she's not figured out yet how to move out of his suite. And so you can see it on the look on her face. Be empathetic, because you don't know. Have I told y'all about Sharon yet? I had a young lady that worked for me for years. She followed me from the University of Texas to the University of Houston. There's a lot of people that love me. Now Sharon was, I don't want to be rude. She didn't have much of a social life. You could literally call her at noon or 12:30 on a Sunday and she's sitting in the office. She's trying to get prepared for Monday. This is before she had a laptop to take home. She'd been to church, stopped by a Whataburger, went to the office. So, Sharon, what did you do all weekend? Oh, I was up here on Saturday. I try to tell people, look, do something for your life. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have. Be inquisitive, ask questions. What are we going to use this for? We bought a piece of equipment, when I was at the University of Texas, that had to go in the lab in the medical school. I ain't real bright. I didn't think to have it measured. I didn't think to run it by a physical plant. So we had to crane it over a building into a window. I learned then to ask lots of questions. It just recently happened to us 3 months ago, where I'm on the phone with a physical plant guy, and I said, hey, we're going to the board this month with all this new CNCs and lathes because we're building a new lab to teach our students. And he said, where are you going to put it? I said, I think it's going in N106. He said, the damn sure won't. I said, say what? He said, nobody called me. And I said, but Brian, it's going to the board. He said, you take the board all you want to. It ain't coming in that lab. There ain't no room for it. Never thought I'd call him a little man. Riding skills. So, one each white truck. I have a friend of mine, Dennis Valley, who is the CIO at the University of Houston system. And he is famous for his thank you notes, and he handwrites every single one of them. And it's wonderful. So he'll send Jody a note, says, thank you so much on your help last week on a certain project. It was great to engage with you. I hope we can do it again soon. Friends, Dennis Valley. Become more engaging. Learn to write. I said, learn to write, Beth. I didn't say anything about grammar. Work smarter, not harder. Can I tell you about Tony? Have I told you all about Tony yet? So Tony would take a series of requisitions. These were back when they were printed. Oh, let's stay there. All these young people have no idea what I'm talking about when I say that. They were printed and then they went through the signature thing and everybody in Jesus signed them. But he would do one at a time. I'll give you an example. It's not his example. I'll give you an example. Let's say in his stack for today, he's got 4 Office Depot requisitions. Most of y'all are smart enough to figure out in an ERP system how to put all 4 requisitions on one PO, separated by account number, and out the door. I told you. One at a time. And so he would do Office Depot. And then he would do an order to Fisher Scientific. Now I really tell my agent. He couldn't figure out how to do this. Do y'all, I'm just trying to raise awareness here. Do y'all have those people on your staff? I hope. Pro-D over certification. I go to a lot of meetings, a lot of conferences, a lot of seminars. Not so much anymore. I'm getting old. Today is my half birthday. We won't tell you which one. And I'm really getting old. So I don't do a lot of this. But in my budget request this year, I tripled my request for Pro-D. Because I have people on my staff who I want trained, who I want behind me saying, okay, Alan's not going. They just recently had the Texas Public Purchasing Conference. First one I've missed in 10 years. But I sent 2 people from my staff. It's a value. It's a value to the college. It's a value to me. Verbal skills. We have I don't, on my staff, have quiet people. But I don't. But I encourage my people. Speak up. If you're not sure, ask questions. Be inquisitive. Okay? Use your skill sets. Analysis by paralysis. Oh, well, I can tell you this. Beth is my witness. I did an RFP. I call it an RFPC because that's what my lawyer said to call it. And that is I went out to bid. Only vendors who had a co-op would be considered. Okay? So you had to be on NIA, ENI, Bible, or HCDB, something to be considered. Bids come in on Wednesday last week. Thursday morning, Alan had the board memo written to award the bid. I'm not going to sit there and go, and we had the delta between the high bid or the low bid and the next up was $6 a month for 60 months. So where I come from, that's about $400. And I didn't want to bring a new vendor in, so I did all of this conversation with my staff, with the business office. My point is, I didn't just sit on it, because I could easily have sat on it and think, oh, well, I'll be out of town next week. I don't worry about it. Math skills. Purchasing people are not famous for math skills. They invented Lotus 123 and Excel for purchasing. I remember I worked for a CFO one time, and he was talking about, what do they call, Beth? Laurel, the tables, what do they call them? Hinge tables or something, whatever they Yeah, not me. Put that thing in there that adds up, I'm cool, right? Let somebody else go mess with all the pretty stuff. But I took I don't even need a calculator. I was teaching my oldest son algebra, or helping him with algebra homework one night, and we were sitting at the table, and he was doing his homework, and I looked at him and I said, X is equal to 10. How do you know? That's because I've done the problem in my head. When you took algebra, who was talking about math this morning? And I took algebra in high school 3 times. I went to a Catholic school, and you had to pass with a B. It wasn't C+, you had to pass with a B, so I took it 3 times. So I had my algebra. So I showed him, he said, oh, we don't do it that way. I got sent me to do it. In my head. So we took our mathematics. Intuition. I love my mother's intuition. My mother-in-law, my mother's gone. My mother-in-law lives with us. She's 99. And she has a wonderful skill set. She's still ambulatory, with a walker, of course. And she has no problem telling me off. And I remind her all the time, look, you're in my house. And her response is, well, do something about it. Now, who's going to kick out a 99-year-old? She already knows all that. Humbleness. I try to be humble because I'm wrong. I'm wrong. A lot. And I can tell you why. For those on the procurement side, even some of you who are on the accounting side, think about it this way. I started at a university who has government code a little bit different than everybody else. And then I retired and went to work for 2 different cities who have other codes, municipal codes, that look a lot different. And then I went to Alvin, and we have education code and government code and some other little stuff that we're supposed to remember. My lawyer will be here tomorrow, by the way. You can pick on her. It was Mickey Morris, and she's wonderful. But her office keeps me in line, I promise you. Because sometimes I get confused. I think, dang, when I was at U of H, we had to do this. We don't do it here. We don't have a hub requirement. How many people have a hub requirement? Oh, that's even better. We don't have a hub requirement either. It makes for a great day in my office. In human kindness. I used to say, Laura, that this was my oldest son kissing his mom. And I got in a lot of trouble for that. And I don't say that anymore. So you see what I'm saying? I don't say that. I try to be kind to everybody. And I think that is another thing that we need to, at least for people I know, put in our repertoire, is human kindness. Sometimes it's not easy. Technical skills. Now I will tell you this. I went to work at Alvin Community College on March the 3rd, 2020. You want to guess what happened? So my boss comes over on March the 4th. We're all having lunch in the conference room, and he says, oh, here are my goals for next year. Oh, okay, cool. Because we're getting ready to go into budget season for the next fiscal. I understand, cool. And he said, we'll talk about it after spring break. After what break? Spring break was the next week of the 9th. Are you all with me so far? That Saturday, before we come back to work, I get a phone call from an unusual number that I didn't know. And I picked it up, and the lady said, Alan, and I said, yes, ma'am. She said, this is Crystal Albright. She was our president. And she says, do you know what PPE is? I said, I can spell it. Now, fortunately for me, I had spent the first week on campus going to different places in Alvin with our buyer. One of the places was we had a brick and mortar Fastenal place. So I had the card for the lady at Fastenal, called her on the phone, and said, hey, what do you all have? She said, what do you need? And I told her what I needed. She says, you'll have to come get it today because I can't open the doors on Monday. So I drove from our home and I went to Alvin in our SUV and I loaded it with PPE, and she gave me a box that said baby diapers. You don't get those from Fastenal very often. She said, don't open it until you get to your office. So I drove to my office, I locked the door, unloaded all the stuff, opened the box. And they had just gotten in on Friday, those monitors, those fever monitor things. 2 of them. We were the only people in Brazoria County that had a lift. We had 2 of them. So when the board thought I walked on water, and then asked me how much money I was going to spend, anyway, it all turned out. But my point in all this is that I did not, over the next year, gain the technical skills in our system because we were all remote. And it's really hard to learn new systems when you're not there with somebody who's doing it, right? So I don't have the technical skills that, say, Laurel or Genesis have, or Louise. I just don't have them in our system. But I encourage people to get more technical skills, but not forget what God. Okay. Long pause. So is this the end of the story? So we have now spent the better part of too long on our professional side. This is me. This is me 4 years ago in Bryan, Texas, St. Joseph's Hospital, dying. Jerry and I had just sold our home. We had just bought a home. We had just signed with a contractor to remodel that home, and we were living in a little bitty 2-bedroom house with our mother-in-law. I got sick over a period of a week. And on April the 3rd, on Saturday night, Holy Saturday night, for those of you who understand that, I was escorted to the hospital and put in a coma. I had advanced COVID. I was being treated for cancer. I had a heart attack. I was the eldest person in the COVID ward, and I was obese. Since we were met last year in College Station, by the way, I've lost 70 pounds. Only because, you have to. I spent the next 72 days in one of 3 hospitals in the Bryan College Station area or Northwest Houston. Why do I tell you all of this? I tell you all of this because I prefaced it by saying that we had just bought a house, we had just sold a house, and we had just hired a contractor. Guess who didn't have access to any of our banking information? Right. Who did I leave behind? When my sons and my wife inquired, and they asked this country doctor, who's a miracle worker, by the way, what's the prognosis? His response was, prognosis? There's no prognosis. He should be dead. And everybody thought I was going to die. My nephew James, who's in the back of the room, came to see me in the hospital like that. They say he was a bit inconsolable. I am his favorite uncle. I hope. So who will you leave behind? So as we moved forward and started to adjust. So I went in the hospital on April the 3rd. I came home on June 17th. Think about it that way. We were dyeing Easter eggs, and then I came home on Father's Day. It's a long term. We didn't know. My friend Cindy reached out to Jerry. Other people in this room reached out to Jerry. I will tell you one little story about Beth. So Beth came to work at the college a few days after I got sick. She didn't know who I was. She had no clue. But she was the director of the business office, and she started digging through different information. And she wanted to make sure that I was being taken care of through FMLA and payroll. Because of her work, Jerry never missed a check. I'd only been there a year. So who are you going to leave behind? That's who I get to leave behind. Or maybe they are. That's my baby grandson down here. He's 11, he's 13 now. He didn't look like that. He got a real deep voice. He's 6'2", but he's cute as a button. So who do we trust with our legacy? Who do we trust leaving behind? We've talked about the people we've left behind at the office when the president's office calls. Who are we leaving behind when they literally take you to in an ambulance and put you in a coma? It wasn't a question. They had to. I had so much going on. James is my witness. They strapped me to the bed because of the anxiety, because apparently when I came to, and they gave me so many drugs, it was horrible. So who are my top 6? What does that mean? You want to tell me? So about 6 months ago, we started talking to Jerry's mom about her funeral. God, that's weird. Why would you talk to somebody about their funeral? Because I want to know. What do you want on display? Like carnations. We never would have done it. I thought she was a rose girl. We have roses outside of her room. She has a little fountain thing for the birds. She had a bird feeder and roses everywhere. She wants carnations. I said, Mom, why do you want carnations? Don't want to guess. Because they're cheaper. And I thought, well, I get more inherited. So, Mom, who's going to carry your casket? Top 6. She said, all of my grandsons. Great. The reason I tell you all this is we wrote it all down. So now when the time comes, she's 99 and a half. Guess when the time's coming? We have no idea, but it's coming. We have all of this information. We have a lot more information. Because, see, she said, oh, well, we don't have to do all this. Jack and I, that was her dad, her husband. Jack and I went to the funeral and we made all the arrangements. 27 years ago. So, yes, the caskets are ready. We know where she's going to be buried. We have the headstone. We have all of that stuff. But she had grandchildren 27 years ago. Now we want to include her. So who are you leaving behind? Who is your top 6? James is one of mine. And I will tell you this, just for me. When I had to list my top 6, I didn't put my sons on there. Can I tell you why? You may want to know it's not a religious reason. I think that they need to be sitting with their mom. Our son, our youngest son, is a musician, has a degree in music, and will probably be playing. He plays the euphonium. Anybody know what that is? Claire? What's a euphonium? It looks like a mini tuba, right? Yeah, that's what he plays. You'll find them everywhere. They're not in a rock band, I promise you. But they play a beautiful, amazing grace. So he's going to do the music, but he's going to be close to his mom. I felt like that felt better. Think about who your top 6 are. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Death is generally the end. We got to back into it just a little bit. Most people don't have a will or a trust. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday on the way over here. Most people don't have a will or a trust. Jerry and I have all of it. And the reason we have all of it is because I did not want to leave the people I left behind with trying to figure out how to get the damn bank account. Talk to your banker. We just moved the vast majority of money that Jerry's mom has from one bank to another and set it up as a joint account with her 5 children. And what we were told is that because it's set up that way, we would not have to probate a will, because that's all the assets she has is that money. So any one of those kids after her death can write a check and get it over. Who you're going to leave behind? All that's okay except for maybe your sister. I'm not so sure about that. And there are no rules that require you to stay in the same order of your family and friends. I can assure you, my witness is back there. There's one member of my family who didn't think I should have gotten the treatment I got because it was politically controversial. Was then, still is. But I am here because of that treatment. And the prayers of people like Cindy, the people at her church, and others. Not anything I did, I can promise you. I just laid there. And the reason I say all that is one of the things that two of the things that Jerry and I did was, one, we did a power of attorney, medical power of attorney. If you don't have one, you really need to do one. They're online, they're easy to do, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you a member of my family, his name is not anywhere near there. And then we did a financial power of attorney, where we assigned people, one of my sons, and James actually, to deal with the finance part. Think of this in advance. When we sat at the funeral home for my mother, we had no idea what is this? They started late. Early. I got this down to a science. 3 o'clock. I got you at 3 o'clock. Is there coffee? A priority. So ensure now that your desires are known. Now, that your desires are known, because you don't know. I was literally fine on Monday, and on Saturday night, I was in a coma. You don't know. You don't know. And what they say is, what do they say? Get your affairs in order. It's usually get your affairs in order before you pass away. And write everything down. File it. Give it to your most trusted advisor. So about 2 weeks ago, Jerry and I went through every single access we have. My email at work, our Gmail accounts, our Facebook accounts, our Twitter accounts, I have TikTok. What, you gotta have TikTok when you're cooking for 2 Italian women? They got all these recipes on there. People in my house kind of weird. We wrote them on there. Put them in a spreadsheet. I did that. Put them in a spreadsheet. Print them out. And they're in different places throughout our house. And both of our sons have a copy. Now, they may change. But at least it's a start. Right? We put our assets in a trust. We completed medical power of attorney. We secured a will. And we have pre-purchased our caskets. Try that. They look real cute. They're in a box in the back of the garage. And I got them standing up this way. And they're, you don't believe me. They're cute. One says blue, one says pink. Pink is fine. But do as much as you can up front. Visit with the funeral. Visit with the pastor of your church. Because you don't know. Literally, had I died, we didn't know where I was going to go. Jerry had no clue. I had no. We never talked about it. Have you talked about it? Try. Who did you leave behind? Or who would you leave behind? We did inherit some property in Navasota. Everybody know where Navasota is? That's the sneeze before you get to College Station. We created a list of all passwords. We're considering a shared bank account with our sons to make sure things are not lost. So, think about your legacy. Sometimes we're not selfish, but sometimes we have to. I don't want red carnations. You don't know what I want? White roses? I'm I'm saving money on her casket. Let's get it on mine. We have a list. Jerry and the boys at James know who the top 6 are with phone numbers. I can tell you if you're Catholic, I can tell you who's doing the readings and what the readings are, because I've already put them in there. I can tell you who's bringing up the gifts. I can tell you all about the service. I can tell you where I'm going to be buried. The best part of all of that is I don't know when. But it can happen to all of us. So I close this afternoon and encourage you to think about who you left behind today, but also think about who you might leave behind. And can you help them out? Because I can just imagine. Now I have 2 sons. They are 13 years apart. And as somebody said last night, man, that's a big... They ain't even the same generation. So can you imagine them sitting there at the funeral home going, oh, like roses, why would he want roses? I think he likes carnations myself. No, I think he likes sunflowers. What's the cheapest one on the list? That's what we want. Right? I'm already telling them what I want. So I'll print it out, it's in an envelope. By the way, the medical power of attorney, when you get that, make a copy of it and put it downstairs or near your kitchen or in your dining room. Because when the verdict comes out, you hand it to them. Because you don't know necessarily, particularly if you're in the DFW area, we don't have many choices where I live. You got Baylor, Scott, and White, and you got St. Joseph's. Right? So they're going to haul you out of the house on a gurney. And they're going to take me to St. Joseph's, to Baylor, Scott, and White. They don't even know who I exist. So you hand them a medical power of attorney. They go, the medical power of attorney, it's all over. But think about things that you don't want to do. I don't want to pick out my mother's this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. It's your legacy. I want to thank, again, all of you. Did I do? How did I do? 308. I thank all of you again for being here this afternoon. I hope I've inspired you just a little bit to think about, don't sneak it behind me. I know how these women are. They sneak it behind me. They pick my pocket, and there's nothing back there. But I encourage you to go out and do the right thing. And do great things. Thank you very much. Don't leave, because we got big guitar announcement.
Okay, so very quickly, I want to tell you something about your CVent app that will help you out. This is actually a good thing. So when you are in your app on the home page and you go over to the right-hand side, which is your personal stuff. It's at the bottom right-hand corner, it's a little person, okay? And it's going to say My Event at the top. You're going to be able to see lots of different things. If you scroll down to the bottom, there is a button that says Surveys. If you don't have one, then that means you're probably not doing surveys, that kind of thing. If it says Surveys and you click on it, those are the surveys that you either have or have not done. There's your check mark, you've completed that survey. If it says right here that it's new, like I have one I've not completed, it was from the very first session this morning. So you still have plenty of time to complete your surveys. So that's where you go if you did not have time when you left the session. If you checked in, that survey is still available to you. If you did not check in, you need to come see me, and you need to bring 3 witnesses